Hi there, I'm Christina from hairromance.com. If you've tried no heat curls before and they haven't worked out, I think I have a few reasons why. I've had a few fails myself in the past, and I've got all of my troubleshooting guide here in this video to make sure that you can achieve perfect, heat-free, overnight curls in your hair. I'm not afraid to share my fails here on Hair Romance, and you might have seen when I tried to do no heat curls with a robe tie, that video was a total fail for me. The majority of these no heat curl techniques involve splitting your hair in half and then waving your hair back away from your face. Excellent technique. Waves away from your face are always more flattering than waves that roll into your face. But the problem is that part at the back. Nobody ever really shows you how to deal with that. And there are a few tips and tricks that I know will solve that problem for you if you've managed to get the front of your hair waving quite well, the easiest part to do. But no one has actually turned around and shown you how it looks at the back. So I'm going to show you what my hair looks like at the back after having slept in the braids and how to fix it. But before that, let me show you the braids that I use to get these waves. Now here's the tutorial for the braids that I use to get the waves in this video. Now full disclosure, obviously I'm filming this afterwards. If I'd known they were going to work, I would have filmed them before, but trust me when I say that those were in straight hair and they will work for you too. First thing is to brush your hair. I really do like using a Tangle Teaser brush, and I've got the wet brush, but I think this finishing brush does a great job of actually getting it deep into my hair and removing any knots, but also smoothing it. Because that's one thing I find an issue with when I'm braiding my hair for waves, is that it needs to be fairly smooth to begin with. So using a good brush that you can really smooth through your hair first will really help. Now we want to part our hair in two, but obviously not that neatly because we don't want that part at the end anyway. And also, if you're someone that likes to wear your hair to one side, you can do the braid off to that side where you like to part your hair now. That will give you the waves more evenly on both sides, the way that you like to wear your hair. Entirely up to you. I'm going to go for like a rough center part. It can help to just brush your hair back and then just run a line through to get that easy center part. And then down the back, I'm not using a comb or anything. I'm just going to separate my hair into two. Now I'm picking up a section at the front here, and I'm going to split that into three. And I'm going to take the front section under and then the back. And then on that third cross, which is middle section, I'm going to pick up some hair and add that into the braid. And then on the other side, I'm going to do the same. And as you cross underneath each time, I'm just adding a little bit more hair into the braid. I tend to do slightly smaller sections at the start, but increasingly make them a bit larger. And the other thing I quite like to do with this is to keep the braid a little bit closer to the front of my hair than towards the back. I find that this gives obviously a stronger wave at the front, but also helps just to more evenly braid my hair through. Then once all of that hair is added in, just finish it down into a regular plait. And I like to take a tiny little elastic to secure it as low down as possible. And when you get to the end, I like just to run my fingers through and try and curl them all in the same direction, even just twist the ends around a little bit. When you're taking the braids out later, it just helps minimize the mark from the elastic and any kinky ends that can go off in the opposite direction to your braid. Just twisting them together really helps with that. Now onto the other side. One thing to note when you're doing the braid on this side is to make sure that you're doing the complete mirror image of the braid. So my nature, I think, I always want to go on this side first under the braid, maybe just force of habit for me. We want to make sure that you take the front section under first and then the back section. So then on that third cross, you're at the front again, so you can pick up hair and add it in at the front. It's only a small thing, but it's these little details that I think help create a more even look in the braid and really make a difference in your end results for the waves. And similarly, I like to try and take hair in roughly the same size sections as I've done this one, down this here, and keep it in a similar position as well. I find that that really helps keep that uniformity of the waves across both. And then you just keep crossing under and adding in hair as we keep going. Again, just take a tiny elastic and twist those ends all in the same direction again. It'll make sure that they curl in the same way that your braid has as well. Now there's one final adjustment I make in my braids before I go to bed, and that is to loosen up the top sections a little bit. I like to just stretch out the front here. Because these sections are so small, they are going to show a really tight wave here, and while that can work quite well, I like them to just be a little bit looser. Totally personal preference, but that is my preference. And so I don't go through the whole braid and really stretch it out like I would if I was wearing this style, because I want it to stay in bed and stay neat while I sleep. But I do just stretch those front sections just a little, because I feel like it helps make sure that the wave is all the same as they're going down. And then you're set with these braids to wake up with waves in the morning. Now, when it comes to taking out the braids in the morning, I have a few tricks as well. I take the elastic off and just massage the ends here just to see and just to check that I don't have a really big dent in my hair. And then when I'm actually taking the braids apart, I make sure to try and detangle them as neatly as possible so that the individual sections sort of stay together. You can break the waves up a little bit better afterwards once you see how they're looking, but I like to keep them in these shapes as much as possible, and I find that that reduces the frizz. You want to take them out quite carefully, and then you can adjust with a little bit of product or as they're sitting there afterwards. You might find that they end up sitting quite well on their own after a few minutes once they take a bit of time to settle. But by taking the braids out really gently instead of just running your fingers through, gets you with a better result to start your styling after that. So now with your braids out, you can start to have a look and see how they're going. I like to be careful about how I break them up unless I'm using a little bit of product. And what I recommend using is like a cream-based product, like a smoothing balm, a leave-in conditioner spray can work quite well too. Something like that is going to give you a little bit of extra moisture and a little bit of hold to smooth your hair as you're styling. But you want to just try and see how the waves are looking. For me, having coloured and dry hair, always a little bit of a leave-in conditioner will work, and spritz this on. This is the Kristin S leave-in conditioner spray, and I like it because it's really nice and light. But my ends are always a little drier, and that's where I'll go for something a little bit heavier like a cream. And I'm using the Oribe priming lotion. Normally I actually love using this in damp hair, but if you have dry hair or wavy hair like me, then you might find that this works really well on your dry hair too, just to add a little bit of moisture and life back into the ends of your hair. So now we've worked out that getting the front out of the braid isn't actually that hard. What is the problem is that nice flattened section at the back of your head that you slept on all night. This works whether you've got using the robe ties or whatever sort of no heat style you're doing. What you end up with is this. Tends to be a little bit fuzzy. I do sleep on a silk pillowcase, bougie, but it does make a big difference. It's not as frizzy as it could be, but it's flat And even when I try and put my hair together, most of the time it's going to separate, and definitely during the day it's always going to want to go back to where it was sitting before. So the only way to really get rid of this is with a little bit of product and a little bit of styling. What we're going to need to do is back comb at the roots a little bit, and I also recommend using a styling powder, especially if you have fine hair, because that hair is definitely wanting to go lay flat, and even if you can back comb it a little bit to sit together, it's going to want to separate throughout the day, so having a little bit of product is definitely going to help. Now you can use a brush if you want to back comb here, or you can just use your fingers a little bit too. I like to grab a section of hair around the crown, and then just taking my fingers like a little comb, gently just pull down the hair here, and going just down that little section of your part where it's sitting quite flat, a little bit frizzy, and just encouraging the roots to sit a little bit closer. This gentle combining just really helps kind of reverse that action that the part has been all night. And what I'm doing is gently lifting sections and kind of rearranging them, because if you do a big shakeout, it's just going to make your hair a little bit too frizzy. Well, I know it will for my hair, but a lot of the times it can just shake, and if your hair doesn't hold a curl very well, shaking it too much is just going to let that curl drop. But by actually just sort of lifting the hair at the root a little bit and moving it around, you're able to then shift it, put it back in place. And that is definitely when you're going to use that volume powder. My old fave, I've been using this Schwarzkopf powder forever, it's the best. And you want to remember, with any volume powder, sprinkle it like salt. You can always add more, it's hard to take it away. So sprinkle a little bit just where you need here and work that in. And what that is really going to do is just to help hold that part together, especially at the crown of your head, where your head is like the hair has got the longest to sort of drop from there. It's hard to make it cross back to a place where you've been sleeping on it all night the other way. And if your hair really isn't holding along that part, going back and doing back combing with a little bit of a brush or a comb and the styling powder, hands down will save any flat hair and will hide that part for days. Like, that's not coming back. Using volume powder and back combing like this can also be a great trick if you have a crown along your hairline, or you have like a sort of cowlick pattern that your hair tends to grow in the opposite way that you want it to sit. By back combing a little, using a little bit of volume powder can really help balance out that volume in your hair where you feel like it's sitting the opposite way that you want it to go. So now we've started to balance out that little flat section at the back. I'm going to go in with a little bit more of that leave-in cream, same one, Oribe priming lotion. I'm just going to run that through to try and smooth down any frizzy layers that I've created from too much styling there. And that is one of the biggest tricks to help cover up that flat back that you get with so many no heat curl tutorials. Now for a few more product troubleshooting. If you have fine hair, or you found that your hair's got a little bit too oily overnight and it's really not looking as good as you were hoping that day, dry shampoo is definitely where you go. So one of my favorites is the Batiste. And the trick with this as well is always to spray like a good arm's length away from your head. If you spray too close, you're definitely going to get too much product on your hair. And also spraying in one place rather than sort of aiming it around your hair, you can get a concentration of product. So if you've ever been afraid of getting white spots or discoloration from using dry shampoo, they're the things to watch out for troubleshooting this. I've got a whole video on it, but that's the two major takeaways. Always moving when you're applying the product, and never closer than your elbow away from your hair. That should get you through that. But if you've got flat or oily roots, a little bit of dry shampoo is definitely going to fix that. The other thing is, if you do find that you get a little bit of dry shampoo residue, you don't need to worry. Just wait for a minute and it will absorb, especially if you have actually got quite oily roots. The powder is designed to absorb that oil, and so just let it work in and you won't have any marks in your hair. Now, if flat hair isn't the problem and instead you're dealing with frizz that's flying away, that isn't necessarily the worst problem, because for me, I do love a little bit of frizz. I think it adds a bit of softness to the style, and it can also add volume if you have fine hair, so don't be too frightened of it. But if you do want to tone it down a little bit, a couple of my favorite products are either starting with that priming lotion, again, the Oribe priming lotion, to help smooth it down. This is the option if you have thick or coarse hair. Some oils and serums can help to combat a little bit of frizz in your hair, but be careful that some of them don't just give you shiny frizz. I do like using the O&M Frizzy Logic. This is a great product, which is a kind of a hybrid mix that helps add a little bit of shine, but not too much shine, and does help control a few flyaways. I like this for a little bit of definition in my hair as well. I'm going to add in a little bit around the front here. And I mix that in between my hands, because this helps mean that you're not going to apply too much product in one place. And because I know I also have dry ends, with any kind of oil or serum, I always start lower and then work back up. You want to start from ears down initially, working that into your hair. And then when you have the remainder of the product on your hair, you can use that to smooth down the top. This is a great little troubleshooting hack so that you don't get too much product in the wrong place in your hair. Just spent all that time taking the oil away from your roots. Don't want to get back in with an oil or serum and then smooth it straight back over again. By starting at the ends and the mid-lengths of your hair, you can then go back with just that last little shine of product on your hand and then smooth that over to get a much softer, frizz-free finish to your hair, adding in a little bit of shine but without overloading the product where you don't want it. And a final little product tip, if you've got a lot of new hair, baby hairs, or a little bit of breakage along the top of your hair where you have short hair sticking up that you can't seem to stick down, this is an incredible product that I picked up in my travels, but I have found it on Amazon. I'll link it below. Basically, this is an amazing Japanese hair product that is like a balm in a pot. It's hands-free, so it's quite good for styling on the go, and you literally just attach it to the top of your hair to catch any of those hairs and stick them back down. And that is a great way to catch those final little hairs or new growth or damage that is just sticking up and won't go down. So yes, you can get no heat curls and waves to work in your hair, even if it does require a little bit of extra styling, because if you've ever wondered why you haven't seen the back of someone's hair, that could be why. You don't need to worry if you think your hair has turned into a fail. Hopefully these troubleshooting tips have turned it into a good hair day for you. But you know, I'm all about putting an end to bad hair days, and I've even got a little book on it, which is a free download over on hairomance.com. Also got lots more tips and tutorials there. And I'm over at Hairomance on social media, pretty much everywhere. And I would love to see your hair if you try some heatless waves. Show me the back of your hair. I want to see how it really works out. Have fun with your hair, and I'll see you next time. Bye.